Welcome to the March 13th, 2017 Coeur d'Alene Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Let's begin the meeting with roll call.
Commissioner Cranston,
Here.
Commissioner McDowell,
Here.
Commissioner Lean, Commissioner Tate,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Wood,
Here.
Commissioner Edinger,
Here.
Commissioner Burgess,
Here.
Commissioner Foster.
Here.
Thank you, Melissa. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. And Jenny, would you lead us tonight?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a relatively short agenda tonight, but we do have one action item, and that is the Workers' Memorial Monument. And I know one of our members is going to have to leave early to another appointment. So would the group here entertain a revision to tonight's agenda and move the Workers' Memorial item up to, I believe it would be item number 8.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Do any of the members tonight have a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items?
None here.
There are none. And another little piece of housekeeping here. Seems like we just had a meeting, and sure enough we did, February 27th, and we have the meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comments or revisions to the meeting minutes? I'll entertain a motion for approval then.
Move for the approval of the minutes.
Second.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Edinger and seconded by Commissioner Tate to approve February 27, 2017 meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Bill, staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner. So let's see, the Recreation Department will conclude next week a 6-month-long youth basketball program. We'd like to thank the Coeur d'Alene School District. It's been great working with them. As I think I mentioned to you last time we were together, we had great kudos about how nicely they keep up those gymnasiums. So again, it's been a wonderful partnership. Our men's spring league basketball starts up this week and should conclude late April, just in time to start the men's softball league. Spring soccer registration is completing and soccer itself will begin right after spring break. And our annual Unplugged and Be Outside week happens during spring break week. This has been offered the last 5 years to encourage kids to get outside and enjoy the outdoors. Many free activities are offered, but due to some questionable weather conditions, some of these activities may be moved indoors to Woodland Middle School. So check our website for what is going to be available and dates and times. And then I talked to you a little bit about our swim program, and due to that popularity of the swim program, our Recreation Department has adopted some new registration policies that will help to accommodate and include more children in an indoor swim program. We also were able to acquire Saturdays. So instead of 2 days a week, we're going to be able to go to 3. So that'll help a bunch. Paula Austin's worked real hard on that, and so she was able to put that together for us. I'm going to move over to the podium. I've got some things to show you about the park stuff.
Okay.
We, as I told you last time we met, we talked about snow, and you asked some questions about what we're doing with benches and picnic tables and that kind of stuff. So I thought it'd be good to let you know, or let you see the befores and afters. We have we have 30 benches that are on Sherman Avenue and Lakeside. We have about 9 left, 8 or 9 left, I was told. But this is what they've looked like before and after. So these are all the ones that you see downtown. And so the guys have been, when they're not doing snow removal, taking care of these. And along with these, they're doing, like I said, picnic tables and benches that are in parks. So that's kind of a nice thing for them to be doing inside when the weather's not so nice. We still are looking for some seasonal park maintenance workers. We've brought on about 5 or 6 folks so far, and then we're picking up some more the first part of next week, about 3 or 4 more, but we're still taking applications. So if someone's looking for some employment with us in the parks outside, doing some grounds maintenance work, we encourage you to go check our website and fill an application.
When do you need to have these positions filled in order to keep up with the spring, summer work?
Last year, we never got filled. So we were at full capacity for about a week. And so people find other employment and or need to move on or for whatever reason. So we never really fully got staffed. So we took applications pretty much throughout the summer. And then we really didn't bring on any more people after August because we're starting to wind down at that point, or getting ready to wind down.
Mr. Chair. Bill, could I refer someone from the college to you to maybe just try to connect with the city for maybe some college kids would like to have some
Absolutely.
part-time? Okay.
You bet, thank you.
I thought you were going to refer yourself.
Well, me too. I'm not very qualified, but we'll give it a shot.
You have some time on your hands,
I
don't
do
you?
have that.
And then Monty McCulley, our Trails Coordinator, who's been working closely with the Skate Park Association, we've submitted a grant for the skate park revisions, or the building of the new skate park, which you'll see here in a little while from Phil Boyd. So Monty's going to take that on for us to do a presentation to the board in Boise on the 22nd. So he'll be down there and answering all their questions. He's got a pretty large PowerPoint for them to answer some things that they want to hear about. And some of the skate park association folks want to go as well. So they may be carpooling down there and making this presentation on the next Wednesday, the 22nd.
Well, wish you all the success with that.
And then I want to talk to you a little bit about the Jewett House. We've done some different things with the Jewett House. Initially, so this is the refurbished one. I don't know if you guys have seen it up and close and how it looks. And this is back to the original characters, how it was. So this spring, the Parks Department, we're going to plant this planter in here. Our choices for shrubs and trees is limited because the deer are munching down on everything that we like to put there. So we're going to be somewhat limited, but we'll get that done this spring. Traditionally, it is a seniors activity center and weddings. But this year, we've opened it up beyond weddings. And so I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what goes on there. So on Mondays, they've got yoga and senior meditation and Tai Chi. And on Tuesdays, there's a Jewett House book club that meets there. And while I say all this, if there's anybody out there who has an activity, a senior activity that they want to do or have, contact Marla, and her number's on this page, and when I get to it, I'll say what that is. But we're trying to encourage more activity, and we've got some time slots that are available for those senior activities. Wednesdays, we have Pinnacle on every Tuesday as well. Wednesdays, the Rider League is there. Thursdays, another Pinnacle club. And then Hand and Foot Care or card game. So, and then she just recently, this is one that's new, Mahjong. So she was real excited. Marla Lake is the gal who manages that for us. Was real happy to get a new activity going on there. And then Fridays, they've got the yoga and meditation as well. So if anybody's interested in those events and or something else, you can contact Marla at the 667-5194 number and see if they would like to be part of this. What we did with the weddings was, it was only for weddings, and we realized that there were other opportunities available for the use of this house. And the wedding fee structure was too much to have a retirement party or a birthday party or a baby shower. And so we restructured that, and we took that fee structure to council, and that was approved. So she just booked a wedding for the first part of April, or a wedding shower, I'm sorry, for the first part of April. So she was excited that we were able to do that. But I wanted to let everybody know that this is available for weddings. And again, they just need to contact Marla, at those, at that number. Again, that number is 667-5194. And we're real excited about the new opportunities. We never had considered it before until someone had called and asked, can we have a baby shower? And the only fee structure we had there was for a wedding, which really priced it out of the ability for them to do that. And with that, I'll entertain any questions about the Jewett House.
Mike?
Yeah. Bill, what size groups could the Jewett House accommodate for our viewers?
So it's a, by fire code, it's 40 inside.
Okay.
And now the weddings on the outside, though, are, of course, we can get several hundred out there. But inside is 40. And we're also trying to encourage maybe off-season smaller weddings that could accommodate that size of venue, so 40.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair? And Bill, is there a website, the city website, that gives the fee structure for the other kind of events?
Yes,
and
well,
weddings?
actually, you just need to talk to Marla and give her a call, and so,
Okay.
and she can talk to them about that.
Okay.
But this is on our page under Jewett House as a tab, and so they can go there and take a look at it.
Okay.
We have some new brochures that this is at, they can pick these up at the Jewett House itself or at the Parks Department as well, if they wanted to go and get a hard copy, if they don't have access to a computer.
Great.
Bill, question kind of going back to the restoration of the benches. When you refinish the bench like that, how long of a period of use do you get out before that has to be done again?
Depends on the season. It's really, sun fades it out pretty bad. It's been several years since we've done them in the past, but they start, if it's a really hot summer, they start to fade. But it's interesting, the Sherman Avenue benches were done first, and those are Alaskan cedar. And then the 2 years to follow went Lakeside, and those are redwood. And so when we had to be careful about the stain because the redwood obviously takes this, we use a product called Canyon Brown, the color. It looks about what you saw there, that was the cedar, but when we do that color on the redwood, it comes out almost black. So we have to get one that is toned down a little bit differently when we do the redwood ones.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have any comments or announcements at this time? Is there anybody in our audience tonight that would like to make a public comment that's not already part of our agenda? There are none. Okay, that brings us to our action item, the Workers' Memorial Monument. Bill, maybe if you'll just kind of give us a little bit of a staff report and take it from there.
Thank you. So, Commissioners, you have seen this before. So tonight before you, what we have is we'd like you to recommend to General Service to allow the construction of a Workers' Memorial at City Park in a specific area located in the northwest corner of the park. This was brought to you back in 2010, and the request was to consider this memorial at Riverstone Park, but we couldn't find a suitable location at that time. But the commission, you wanted to keep this on the radar, so we were always with the intent to find it a home. And we believe that we have found that alternate location up in the northwest corner of City Park. I met with Mr. Cedarblum and his board and the architect Del Hatch on site, and we've kind of chosen a location, and I'll finish up with the staff report and then we'll show you the rendering of where that is and where it places in relationship to Fort Ground Drive and Park Drive. So this memorial is dedicated to any Idaho worker that has died while working in line of duty. We have them memorials for police officers and firefighters, but we don't have one for the working man. And so that's what this memorial would be used for. Excuse me. The estimate of probable cost for this memorial, we believe, is about $80,000. That number could go down with some in-kind donations. The city would not be obligated for any costs associated with the project. Our part of this is really, we may move a little bit of irrigation around to accommodate the memorial itself, but really all the out-of-pocket expenses are going to be borne by Mr. Cedarblum's group. So all those costs would be responsible for the North Idaho Central Labor Council. They also would be responsible for any of the vandalism and any of the capital repairs and or replacement of the memorial included the cost of adding the individuals' names to the memorial. So the memorial itself will have the names of the individuals, and they will bore that cost as well. We would be responsible, the Parks Department, for the day-to-day maintenance, cleanup, and nominal graffiti. If it's a tag that's really bad, then we'll contact Brad, and we'll let him know that we need some assistance with that. But as far as the day-to-day, keeping it clean and keeping the leaves off it, that sort of stuff, our staff can do that without any trouble. So the performance analysis, the proposed location of this memorial in City Park does not have many park patrons in this area. In fact, we've installed some barbecues and we pull over picnic tables at that location. The picnic tables get pulled all the way over to the playground. So it's kind of an unused area, and we've, again, tried to encourage people by using it we installed 2 barbecue pits there. One was taken out during the 2015 windstorm, so we haven't replaced it. There's still one, and it rarely has any ashes in it, so it's not used. And so the overall footprint of this project shouldn't exceed about 2,000 square feet, because I think, Commissioner Cranston, you asked me the size, and that's about what it's going to be. There are, and you'll see in the picture, there's some connecting points between 2 sidewalks, and that would be part of that. So this evening before you is whether you want to recommend to General Services to allow for this. And I'll get up there and show you the rendering of that as well. No, we're not going to get to rotate that. There we go. So this is Park Avenue, Park Drive, and this is the new Fort Ground Drive. This is an existing parking stalls that we put in with the new realignment. And this is the area of the memorial itself. We like this connectivity. We were able to connect it to this existing sidewalk. There's a handicap stall here, and then it also connects to this. If you've been in City Park, this is the Bricks restroom here. This walk goes this way, and it winds off and goes down around Park Drive, but there's a connection at this point as well. And when I met with Brad and his board, we talked about this whole area as to, really depending on how they felt about it and how it worked, we could have placed this any direction. I was okay with any of it. And they came back with feeling like they liked this placement of the memorial. And so I'm good with that placement as well. And with that, Commissioners, I would field any questions, or if you have any questions of Mr. Cedarblum, I'm certain he would like to talk to you as well.
Bill, can you speak to a moment for existing trees to remain and propose new trees and kind of clarify that a little bit?
Right. When I met with them and Del Hatch on site, this will be situated in a way that it will not encroach on any trees, and additionally, just not the trees themselves, but the tree root zone. That's really an important element of this. We don't really want to get close to those. Those tree roots need air, and so we don't want to put any hardscape over the top of them. So we're all aware of that. And in fact, this area here, we've actually had a shrub bed that's there, and they're probably going to utilize some of that stuff that's there existing. So thank you, Commissioner. The placement will not harm any of the trees in the park.
Okay. Ron?
Bill, down here on Front Street by McEwen, what is that memorial down there that Dean Hagenson?
The statue?
Yeah.
Mr. Hagenson did that as an art piece just to, it's not a memorial, it's just to recognize, again, the common worker. So one of his guys and his crew actually posed for that, and it was cast in his likeness. So it is just a monument, not a memorial, a monument to the common worker. And that was a gift from Mr. Hagenson to the city. So there's not any names that are going to be engraved on it like this one would have names engraved on it. It would be similar to the engraving we see at Fallen Heroes Plaza for the fallen firefighters and police officers. As far as the etching would go, that's a similar type look that you'd see.
Oh, okay.
So that piece you're referring to, Ron, was more kind of donated as public art
Right,
in the park project versus a memorial purpose to it.
correct.
Mr. Chair?
Christie?
Bill, would there be some sort of activities planned around the memorial, like once a year, some?
Correct. Around Memorial Day, on Memorial Day, there may be a small gathering, maybe of 20 or so people. We don't expect any very large crowds. It would be really low-key. And in fact, one of the nice things about this location is that was the whole thought, was it should be meditative. It's kind of quiet in that end of the park. It's softer, it's shaded. So no, they're not going to plan on bringing large crowds there.
Okay. Thanks.
Can you describe the proposed lighting a little bit?
I wish I could, but I can't, I'm sorry. Dell was supposed to be here this evening, and I haven't seen, excuse me, I have not seen any of his lighting schematics. So if I recall, last time we talked about it, there were these monuments, and they were going to have an uplight on them, if I recall, that was going to wash from the top. But there was some sort of lighting element within it that hit the monuments themselves. And we had anticipated, or hoped for, I should say, not anticipated, but we'd hoped that this site would be approved by you. I think in the first rendition of the realignment, we showed a dog park, a larger parking lot in here, and this memorial somewhere. So we always felt like there was a bit of a placeholder here. During the project, we dropped in a conduit for power over here. And if that is unusable, we can still grab power from this location really easily. So power really won't be a problem for us to attain.
If a recommendation came from this group tonight to recommend moving forward with the project, what are the next steps?
Well, it would go to council for their final approval, and then Brad and his team are still working on some of the fundraising aspects. But this, not unlike the carousel, helps with their fundraising efforts. It's kind of hard to, I guess, solicit for donations if you don't have a solidified location. And that was something that the Carousel Foundation told us. And when we gave them that piece of land to use, their fundraising took off. And so we're hopeful the same thing will happen for Brad. They have some money, but not everything that they need as of yet. But we hope that this will push them over the top for their fundraising.
What will we see later in regards to design development drawings or more detailed construction drawings?
If you're interested in those, I can bring those back as they come forward. I didn't know that it was something that you were interested in more than the conceptual, but I'd be glad to give you updates as we move forward. That would be fine.
Okay, good. Anything else for Bill?
I guess just a question, do we have any idea of time frame that ideally would be the,
When we spoke on site, before the snow flew, we were out there in the fall. There was discussion in latter summer, early fall of this year.
okay,
So, and they were also, being a tradesman organization, they have some folks on, that they know that maybe will help with some in-kind donation to help defer some of their costs.
sure, thank you.
And again, Mr. Cedarblum's here. If there's some questions that you'd like to ask him, he's more than willing to field those for you.
Well, I guess I'll offer, does anybody else wish to speak, make any comments on the project? Brad? Maybe if you'd step up and just state your name and address for the record, and the podium's yours.
Brad Cedarblum, 15568 North Windsong Lane, Rathdrum, Idaho, President of the North Idaho Central Labor Council. To address each one of your questions, Christie, it's April 28th that we have, it's International Workers Memorial Day. There's ceremonies held throughout the world, throughout the states, and probably 5 different ceremonies ongoing that same day in Idaho, Boise, Lewiston, Pocatello, in Idaho Falls. Plus, we've been doing ours at the Human Rights Education Institute on that day.
Very nice.
Lighting. The draft that we have now, we have actually concrete piers about the size of this podium, four-sided that we can put names on. On the cap, there will be a light shining down on the faceplate of each one of those. The monument has an eternal flame that'll have a light, and it's bronze. We'll have a light shining on that that's kind of reflective. And also one renditioning has a flag, which would require lighting, although I'm not sure that it's going to fit with the trees there, the way it's adapted. And so that would be the only electrical requirements for lighting. The rest is it's all hardscape. It's going to be stamped concrete and masonry. And this event is to recognize those workers that are killed on the job or died from injuries or illness associated with the job. Each year we have about 12 in Idaho. And this is for all workers, not just union workers, although we are paying for it. On the funding, 7 years ago we had quite a nest egg going towards it, but I had the people that said they did not want to bank their money. They had other purposes, and we gave their money back. We also have a lot of volunteers. We have apprenticeships that would love to do different aspects of this with their trades. And we have several suppliers that had offered either free or discounted materials. Time frame, I don't think this will take too long once we get it exposed. When we were originally talking about Riverstone, we were going to try to do some off-site prefabrication, so we could come in with precast concrete and a hydrocrane, plop them down on footings. But stamped concrete, that's going to be a one-day thing to do the initial pad and the block work in the back. And the bushes in the back, we want to make it screened, so it's serene. We've had probably 75 people at the most, and let's hope it doesn't get any bigger, because most of the people coming are there for a reason. Yeah. They lost a loved one. So, any other questions for me?
Anything for Brad? Thank you, I appreciate it. Well, what's the group's pleasure? Further discussion, or?
I'm happy to make a motion unless somebody else. Okay. Mr. Chair, I would like to recommend to General Services to allow the construction of a workers' memorial at City Park at specified area located in the northwest corner of the park.
Second.
Okay. The motion's been made by Commissioner Wood and seconded by Commissioner Eniger to recommend approval of the Workers' Memorial. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Bill, that moves forward unanimously.
Thank you so much. And what we have for you today on the Memorial Park area is a little bit of an update. Welshcomber Phil Boyd is here to go through that with you. We touched base on this at our workshop a little bit, but here's Phil to kind of fill you all in.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Okay, thank you. Good evening. I'm Phil Boyd with Welchcomber Engineers. So tonight I'm going to review fairly quickly the status of the Memorial Park project. We're going to be moving through a series of meetings with Ignite on Wednesday and at City Council next Tuesday. And so Bill and Scott wanted, of course, start with the commission first. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the project progression. Then I'm going to specifically talk about Memorial Field, skate park, the sports court, the playground, and then the City Ignite land trade. And as I'm progressing through this, feel free to stop me and ask questions, because I want to address them while you're thinking about them. This is an aerial photograph. This is actually off of Google, and it's interesting that you can actually see the Fort Grounds Drive and the Mullen parking lot project under construction. You can see how much of that project was torn up. I'd like to show this picture because this is, well, I guess we'll say where it all began. What you're seeing here was actually an evolution of the final product from all the community meetings that went into the Four Corners Master Plan. Specifically, you see the Mullen or Fort Grounds Drive, how it had been realigned. Bill was mentioning earlier the larger parking lot. At the time, reoriented Memorial Field, the soccer field, the large skate park, ropes and boulder course, pickleball courts, and then the parking over near River. As the project progressed from this, the first project, well, let me stop one more thing here before I move on. The community's vision that came out of the master plan was, the big one was connecting Memorial Field with City Park and making it a pedestrian friendly. We pretty quickly forget the 5 lanes that existed there. And that was quite a thing to cross when folks were coming from the concession back to City Park. Changing that focus on Mullen Drive from vehicles to pedestrians, and then planning for future recreational uses, and you can see the bunch that I have listed there, and again, these came out of the public meetings. As we move forward with the project, this is one that was presented in February. You can see the Workers' Memorial here was put in there. The parking lot was still a large one. The project continued to evolve. This was later in the year, and this is ultimately what was constructed. You can see Fort Grounds Drive here realigned. Workers' Memorial is not shown in here, although we plan, as Bill had mentioned earlier, to provide power to that site. And you can see Memorial Field here reoriented. So this is with it in the configurations that's desired by the players. It's parallel to the grandstand. So the first baseline is parallel to the grandstand. See the carousel there. At some point, Mayor Whitmire, and I believe it was Chairman Green, put their heads together about doing a shared parking lot. And Bill and I spent, actually Steve Anthony and I, and Bill and I, and Jim Hammond and I, and Bill spent a lot of time with the county commissioners discussing that and working through it. The county commissioners funded a study to look at the options for constructing a shared parking lot here and a signalized intersection. We actually looked at a pedestrian crossing in that area, not with just rapid flashing beacons, the pedestrian actuated ones. And ultimately, the county commissioners agreed that funding this project here with a full signalized intersection at Garden Avenue was their desired option, and they entered into an agreement with the city of Coeur d'Alene to fund that. That triggered the next thing, which was these projects over here. Bill and I used to call them the companion projects, and thankfully Bill changed the name to the Memorial Park Project, so now it makes more sense to everybody. And it consisted of these improvements that you see here. And you'll notice a big difference that happened between this image here, right behind that, let me back up one. This Ignite parcel right here was not part of our master plan. And as we moved through the planning of these Memorial Park projects, Ignite and the city started working on a land trade. And the city was going to trade these last 2 lots here, actually 2.5 lots here, to Ignite for that parcel of property there. And that was a whole other process that Bill and I worked through with Tony Burns and his board at Ignite, and ultimately we completed that land trade, which allowed us to move to this, which is, you can see the Ignite area here is now in play and we're using it. There's lots here. We've changed the alley location, this location here. The other big change that happened from this one is, you can see here we don't have Memorial Field realigned. And that was because of budget limitations. As we worked through the county shared parking lot, we worked through what we'll call the companion projects. The budget didn't allow for reorienting Memorial Field. As we made this presentation in front of the Ignite board, they felt it was important to see that field reoriented and let me say, they felt it was important to see it reconstructed. Once they decided to fund that and we started moving forward with it, our steering committee became pretty passionate that maybe it made sense to actually reorient it while we had a little bit of the funding, had the funding to do that. That's what evolved into this image here. And you can see just to give you your bearings, Mullen Road, Garden Avenue, this is the edge of the grandstand, and you can see we've reoriented the field. Obviously changed the character of the parking lot, which in my opinion is much better. That's the response we've seen from a number of people that have seen this. When you look at this one, it's very linear when you're driving into town. The green space is very far away. And all along, from the very beginning, we really wanted to make it a featured area when you drove into town and it looked nice, and this achieves that. You can see the parking area here. This was an earlier iteration that we had the picnic shelter, the play area here, the playground here, an open play area. This is actually a stormwater treatment area that we intend to use as make a rain garden. The path that comes off of Fort Grounds Drive would meander through that, so you'd be able to have a little opportunity to move through that area. This berming would help buffer sound into the neighborhood of these houses that will ultimately be constructed here. These are pickleball courts, a futsal court, and the skate park. This was one of our earlier sketches we presented to the steering committee. They had a few comments on it, and then Bill and I sat down and did a real thrash on it, because obviously Bill has to operate it and spends a lot of times in parks and has a lot of excellent people observations, just the way people move through space and use the space. So now we'll get into the less delightful drawings, because these are actually excerpts from our working drawings, because we're moving towards getting the construction documents and putting the project out to bid. One of the big changes that happened is, you can see here is the picnic shelter now. The playground is in this area here, and I'm going to jump into that a little bit right there. You can see the playground area is here. Bill wanted it moved even further away from the parking area, and the picnic shelter is here, and it's oriented that way. The restrooms are on the back side. This is a layout of the picnic shelter that Dick Stoffer did. You can see this side is the picnic shelter here, and the restrooms are here. Dick spent a fair amount of time with Howard Gould, kind of working through what are the things, Howard, you'd really like to see in the facility. And so there's the maintenance area here, mop sink, actually access to the piping behind the facility, so he can maintain them more easily, his crew can. This orientation of the field, because it's pointed towards some of the cars, we're going to end up having to have some right field netting here. And I wanted to put a picture in that shows you an example of what that will look like. Moving on to the playground area. Again, there's the playground area. Bill has purchased that equipment and will be installing it with his crew, because he has certified playground installers, and that was a cost-saving measure that Bill offered up as we were working through the budget. That's the character of the lights and the benches. They're just similar to what you see in Memorial Park right now in front of the grandstand. It would be the same products. Keep the consistency going through there. Pickleball courts, there's 4 pickleball courts in here, and it takes a little bit of imagination if you're not accustomed to looking at drawings like this, but there is quite a bit of space in here. These are benches, fencing in between the pickleball courts, fencing there. The full facility is fenced, and then the futsal court is here, and these are the benches for the teams to sit on. And this is kind of a central corridor. It has a tortuous path entrance, so you can't skate through it, because we want to encourage the skaters to go to the skate park. This is an example of what the futsal court might look like. You can see the fencing on it is a little higher, and it would be next to the pickleball courts, and that's an image of what the 4 pickleball courts would look like. The pickleball court sizing here is actually made tournament size, so there's bigger than, the futsal paint is the same, but the area outside of it is bigger. It's 34 by 64 to make it a little more functional during tournaments. The area continuing on to the north, in this area is where the skate park is planned to be located. This is a Bill had, and the skate park folks had funded a conceptual design. Give you your bearings, that edge right there is the edge of the sports courts. And this is the initial concept of the skate park. And this was done by Grindline. I think they're in Seattle, Bill? They're on the west side. Yeah. And this is, if you're looking at that, wondering if that's Lake Coeur d'Alene, that was one of the comments. it was interesting during listening to the folks during the design process. We had a couple of video conferences with these folks, and the skate group was very passionate about making this a full skill level skate park. So from the young folks to the more skilled people, it's designed to kind of attract each one of those ends of the spectrum. That's kind of a 3D perspective view. You can see the shaping in there. And our project will do the rough grading to accommodate that. And then when the skate park, if it gets funded, we'll come in and do the final grading. One last shot here just to show you the land trade that is working its way through. We're actually going to be at City Council, I think on April 18th or 28th, maybe it is, with a vacation of this street here for Garden Avenue, which is the first step in this land trade. Once that's accomplished, we'll work through exchanging these parcels of property. This is not, as Bill has said earlier, not super high value park space, and this would be very high value park space because it's very central and functional. So those are the high points, and I can certainly go back and answer any questions that you may have.
I know we've had an opportunity to review this in more detail in our workshop here last week, Phil, but one of the items we discussed, maybe if you would comment a little bit more on the connectivity between the park elements of this plan and the Fort Grounds neighborhood.
Sure, thank you. That's a good point. And we took some of the comments that we actually had, and we've got them preliminarily sketched in here, the routes. It's a little bit of a challenge to see on here, but this is, give everyone their bearings. This is Fort Grounds Drive here. There's the traffic circle, and this is Park Drive. One of the strong connections is up the future alley, which is currently the driveway up Garden Avenue that you might take if you were headed to the skate park now. That will remain. It will be slightly narrower. But there'll be a sidewalk on the north side, and the sidewalk comes in, scoots around the playground area and into the picnic shelter restroom. That whole configuration actually around the playground is a design effort in itself. Bill's got very specific design requirements around that, and so this is kind of an initial configuration of it, but we'll be working through literally just that piece because there's a certain way he wants it configured, which all for very good reasons. This is another route here that comes off of Fort Grounds Drive, and this route would bring you up in that direction. This would be a route into the skate park. We're trying to kind of scoot them out because we anticipate once they get dropped off over here at this drop-off area, you know, they're going to throw the board down, and we want to kind of give them a route straight into the park. There'll also be routes off of the commuter trail, and you can see that the commuter trail scoots through here. It does end up removing several trees in there. Does not remove a tremendous amount once you get past this location, and these are all trees that we're going to look at before they come down with urban forestry. Katie Kosanke is going to go out, and we're going to paint the trees, and Katie will give us an assessment with her urban forestry board. There'll be a drop-in route off of this area to get into the skate park as well. Let's see another zoomed-in section of that. Here, let me back up. There. You can see kind of the circulation in there.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Bridget?
Bill, I was wondering if there was another meeting scheduled with the Fort Grounds to review any of the upgrades or changes to this?
I had not. I will be talking to that HOA this coming Thursday on the memorial that we just saw and a sign that is about the historical Fort Grounds. We're going to be working, I've been working with those folks. We can do that sign in-house. So those two items we're moving forward. The elements in this haven't changed really, and so I didn't think to move that forward to the HOA.
I'm just wondering, with now that the housing lots are more prominent and agreed upon and land swaps have happened and it's clear now how the neighborhood can get access, it might be.
Well, we had taken this to them on this land swap has been in the works for some time, so they have seen that portion of it. So all of that piece along Park Drive has been vetted through the HOA, and they're all aware of it. So Phil and I and the mayor had went some months back, I think, before the snow flew, and presented that to them. And so they're all aware of what's going on. They really like the idea of the exchange of that large triangular piece. They thought that was a good move for the overall park. And in fact, they wanted the whole thing to be a park, but we said we couldn't do that. But they were, at least they have seen it and they're aware of it. So that's why I didn't take this. The only part that's changed that is the stuff, the way we've morphed this more organic feel around the shifting of the playground, or the
Parking
playing
lot.
field.
Okay.
And we're still not certain if this adjustment that Phil's showing here this evening is going to be the final rendition. There are several working components within this that may change this design a little bit.
Okay.
Phil, you have some large green space that's between left field of the ball field and Fort Ground Drive as a warm-up area. I guess my question is, whether it be due to cost or whatever considerations down the road, will this design concept work whether the field realignment happens or stays as is?
It will. We can reorient the field or leave it in its current configuration. The thing that would happen is, instead of the warm-up area being on the southwest side, it would be over on this side, on the other area, because there's some green space over here. The issue that Bill was referring to, and it is one to challenge, it is a challenge. When we were at this point here and Ignite was interested in funding this project, the field was reconstructed to remove the hump that's in right field and improve the drainage, because it's quite a drainage issue for Bill's staff to take care of now. And as you guys know, NIC has a challenge playing there at times. So the field was reconstructed, new irrigation, but the lights weren't moved because there was no need to move the lights. As we started looking at this configuration, that does requiring moving the lights. And you're kind of in this path of, well, if we're going to move the lights, is it an opportunity to look at a different type of light that's more efficient? And Bill is doing that in one of your other parks now. And so we're going to work through some of those costing scenarios and determine if we can, if the contingency, because anytime we put an estimate together, it has a construction contingency in it. And it'll be one of those challenges for Bill to look at and say, do we do that? Do we put it in as an ad alternate? But we'll be working through that here in the next 3 weeks.
Christie?
This one, thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually had a question for Bill. I know that we talked about this in the past. I was very interested in the tournaments you've talked about for the pickleball, and I don't remember if you said what do you call it, futsal?
Futsal.
I don't know about if there are tournaments for that. But I was just curious about what kind of research has gone into that. Having worked in the summer parks many times for a lot of events, it seems like the basketball courts just get sucked up quickly. And so I didn't know if there was any discussion about more basketball, or if those were really popular sports and you think those will be utilized a lot.
I do. I think we're trying to diversify. My kids played in a futsal tournament a couple weeks back at the Kroc Center, and it was sold out. The popularity of soccer has grown immensely. You will see, as they say, you build it, they will come. They'll be standing in line, and it's for the futsal. If you go out to Cherry Hill, you can see how many people are playing pickleball at Cherry Hill. So you go out there on some morning, any day during the week, you'll see there's probably 40 people out there waiting in line, or not waiting in line, but there's about 40 people out there, some playing and some waiting their turn. So it's very, very popular.
I need to learn that.
The kids here, and Lily can speak to that, being a soccer player herself, there aren't many opportunities for the kids to play. This futsal, this time of year, she's indoors right now, and so you can't get on the fields. So they've got to stay tuned up even in the off season. This court will help them with that. The way the ball plays is very similar to, might be a mush ball in relationship to softball. So it's smaller, it's a little heavier, and it's denser. And so when it bounces on hard surface, it doesn't take take off like a rocket, like a normal soccer ball might. It plays very similar to the way a ball plays on the field. So it keeps their foot skills up, their passing skills up, keeps their endurance up. So I believe, just like we've done with other things, disc golf we weren't certain about, BMX we weren't certain about, pickleball we weren't certain about. So I think this is just affords us a new opportunity to provide to our community. So I think it's a good one.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Lily?
So yes, football or futsal, it's just kind of an indoor soccer type thing. One thing that would be beneficial for futsal is that a lot of the time players can't play on fields because the city won't allow it because they don't want the grass to get ruined. So futsal is a way that if it rains, players can keep practicing and it won't damage the fields. So that's just another perk.
Thank you.
Anything else for Phil? Thank you for the presentation, Phil.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
That is.
Bill, do you have anything else for us tonight?
I do not, but just thank you, everyone, for your time this evening.
Okay. Anybody else have anything before we adjourn tonight? I'll go ahead and make a couple of meeting announcements then. Our next workshop will be held Tuesday, April 4th, 11:30 a.m. at Caruso's Deli here in Coeur d'Alene. And then our next regular commission meeting will be Monday, April 17th, 5:30 right here in the library community room. And with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chairman,
Ron?
yeah, I would like to remind everybody tomorrow to go and vote.
Yes.
Yes,
School bond, 8 to 8.
good. Thank you for the reminder.
I would make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Hill to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.